Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Golden Shower Sunday stream on it's May 21st. The days just keep going faster. May 21st, 2023. As always, I am joined by my co-host Hex.
What's up, FMU?
FME forever. And today we have a great guest. Today we have Kendra, who is she runs the Denver for Free Assange. Is it a chapter? Do they have like different chapters around, or is it kind of your own thing?
It's our own thing. We're an independent group, but we're associated with a lot of the other groups and the national campaign Assange Defense as well.
Okay, cool. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more too?
Sure, yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. My name is Kendra Christian, Colorado native. Grew up in Sheridan, Colorado, and so basically. We started this group. I started this group shortly after Assange's arrest. Some of this part of my story is a little bit embarrassing. I thought I was actually a pretty decently awake type of person. Assange was arrested, and then I was like, I need to get out there and start doing something. I need to participate. So I figured, I'm like, well, I'll join a group. I figured there'd be I'll join the do-gooders and start fighting with them. And so, I looked all around and there was nothing. So I found a lady in San Francisco, a group in San Francisco and New York had started right away with protests. So I found her and she connected me to a group called Unity for J, which had started for Julian Assange a year prior to him being basically illegally renditioned out of the embassy. That in itself violated all international asylum norms, etc. They had cut his internet for a year prior to that. So he was basically in like a room 101 type of, Orwellian situation there in the embassy. And Unity for J had started during that time. So he did have some, a support group built. And then through working with them is just how we started our group. I went out there, I thought at first I might be the only person like at our first rally, and we ended up with about 8 people. And in our group, some of the first people that showed up there from a meetup are still there. So, now it's been 4 years that we've had this group going. And I could keep going about it. Our group is, we're non-political. We're just completely free speech, free press, free Assange. That's it. We welcome, anybody, whatever your political beliefs are. We don't care. We're not, the only thing we do care about is, if you're a drama type person or there to push a bunch of other stuff, then that's just not what our focus is. Because we personally, free speech is it's the root, they're hacking at the root of the freedoms. So, and that's part of why I am fighting for this, because it's, this really gives teeth to a lot of the censorship that's even going on right now. To charge a foreign journalist under the Espionage Act, that's, for the world, that's a bad thing. But then also for the US, that's pretty much the end of our First Amendment. So
yeah, and I was actually at the End of the Wars rally, I think that was called in 2021 when you met Jacob and stuff. I was there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I remember just that day realizing, because that was kind of one of the first things I left my house for, that was towards COVID was going on too. So it was like, oh gosh, something to go out and do. And I remember that day you were there, so you had to say something, and then like the Johnny Hurley friends and We Are Change people were there. Like everyone kind of got together, and I like how you say that, the whole like it's not all about one politics or one thing at all. It's like we just kind of all have to kind of band together right now for this thing, against this topic, because it's a big deal. So yeah, that was good. And then you've obviously, like had a booth with LP and stuff. And it was so sweet of you to ask me to speak this year. That was like great. It was just so sweet and good practice for me too. So thank you.
Well, we were so happy to have you at our rally. We're happy to support any candidate that understands the gravity of the situation or that's even willing to talk about it. It's pretty it's an insane situation that we're in. This should be really, no matter what you think of Assange, no matter what it is, just on the forefront of charging a journalist under the Espionage Act. Everybody in Congress, everybody should be speaking out against it, but they're not. But we have had it, and it's been awesome. We've had great support from the Libertarian Party, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's huge for us to be able to have a booth at your events and talk to more people and just get more people active and contacting their reps and just honestly doing whatever we can to stop this from happening.
Yeah, because it's like, it's crazy after seeing the movie, the documentary, like, it's, you just like come away feeling like so dark almost, because what they are, and they're just making an example, so that no one else will do anything like this kind of thing. And it's just wild what he's been through. And like we were saying before, he's not even an American citizen.
Right. Not an American citizen, didn't, it's not like he published here or something, it was all done abroad. And then the other big thing about it is he wasn't alone. You have the New York Times, Der Spiegel, The Guardian, all of those organizations at the same time publish these same releases. So it's really, why aren't they being charged? And they try hard to paint him as something other than a journalist, but I mean, that entire case is just completely fallen apart. So, and that happened in the extradition hearing. They, they accused him of helping Manning to obtain the information and whatnot, and that was completely blown apart. Manning had all of the information, and she was actually asking Assange for they wanted help watching movies undetected in their system. So that's what that was about. And then what's interesting is after that, then the US came out like a redo, like oopsies, redos, and so they came out with a superseding indictment to again try to paint Assange as something other than a journalist. And that whole thing is also fallen apart because their star witness was Siggy, I'm going to get his last name wrong, Thordenson. And this guy is one, he was a hostile employee that WikiLeaks fired. Two, he was a pedophile, an embezzler, all of these things. So and then on top of all of that, then he admitted publicly to a reporter that he lied about everything he told the US government in order to, get out of trouble that he was in, basically. So they don't have a case.
And how long has he been? He's been detained, we'll say. How long has he been detained?
So I think the total now is like a little over 12 years because he was in the embassy for 8 years, and I think now too, you'd think there'd be a little bit more empathy after, people were locked down by their governments for a little bit. I mean, that meant people went really crazy for that. I mean, imagine that for 8 years, so his health was already quite bad in the embassy. He couldn't leave the embassy without, fear of being arrested. And the whole time, it's also important to remember that the whole time he was in the embassy, he was being accused of exaggerating and lying about a US extradition against him. And, that was the whole narrative beforehand. So he's just repeatedly vindicated over and over again.
And all the video they had from the embassy that was in the documentary, was that the government? Was the government filming that, or was that did the government have all that footage too?
Yes. So basically, a lot of that is still being litigated to my knowledge, and I'm not sure what the conclusion has been in the Spanish court, but it was a company called UC Global. And it has come out that they were basically sending that information straight to the CIA. So Pompeo right now is subpoenaed by a Spanish court to testify in that case, which of course he's ignoring. But yeah, he was, just completely surveilled in there. And that's the other thing. So all of his attorney-client conversations were recorded and in the hands of the US government who's charging him. So right there, how is there even, that's the kind of thing I point out to people who are like, well, he just needs to come and face justice. What kind of justice are you going to be facing there when somebody's already spied on your, conversations and things like that? And there's actually a case right now in the US with 2 reporters and 2 attorneys, I believe, that are suing, I think the CIA and Pompeo specifically, or, the cases against them for illegally spying on them because their phones and whatnot were also taken apart and taken pictures of, and then they were spied on afterwards after having visited him in the embassy.
That's that's why these institutions are so crazy. Like here in America, the FBI, the whole Ray Epps thing. I remember some people found out who he was, like very close to when it all happened. They went and confronted him and were like, "Hey man, why aren't you on the like most wanted list?" And blah blah blah. And like, he didn't say anything, went back to his house. But then later on, one of those guys got raided by the FBI. It's just like, it's all so like, you can't even. That's why it's so important. Like, regardless if you don't think what Julian Assange did was great or whatever, it's still like, it just shows the power of the government and the lies and what they're, how far they're willing to go to protect their own ass, basically, to be like terrible, to like kill people and whatever. It's wild to me that it can just be like that. I don't know, man.
It's wild to me too. I mean, there's things I just would have I never would believe, quite frankly, if I didn't see it for myself, like doing the Assange stuff. I mean, from the very beginning, it's grown so much. I mean, once people hear the truth, they can't, it's an easy decision, so that's their main thing, is to try to keep that out of there. And I saw that, even before the Twitter files or anything like that, all of the Assange accounts, the major Assange accounts would, get suspended, or all of them shadow banned and whatnot, just from the very beginning. Like on World Press Freedom Day or something, you'd see the Unity for J account suspended. And I think that account's actually still suspended. So it's just, it's constant, and it's still going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, and at least it's kind of like showed, I'll say normal people, just like little people, that like, yeah, they're after anybody who will support this stuff. Like they want to quiet everybody,
They do. And they especially want to quiet, it's always a feed of information, right? That's like, it's okay if the truth or a version of it comes out, so long as it's after the damage is done. And I think that's part of how the media like keeps some credibility with people too, because let's face it, like these aren't easy things to accept are going on. So people rather pretend that they aren't. And I think that's a big thing with WikiLeaks as well, is that they released information when they had it, and they did it because of people who, once it was vetted and everything like that, they've always protected sources. Assange has had multiple times too. I mean, even under Trump had, I think there is offer of a pardon, basically, if he had given up his source for the DNC leaks, which he refused to do. So there's a lot of testimony. I would encourage people, if you're interested in the case, it's quite fascinating, and it really is world press freedom on the line. So it's important to know about. I mean, you're already seeing other countries do what the US has done, take foreign journalists and charge them under their own local spying laws, which that wasn't really a thing before. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there where I was going before that, but
well, it's just wild how the government's allowed to spy, but if you point out that they're spying, then you're a spy. Like,
right.
How does that make any sense?
Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you're interested more in that extradition hearing, it's pretty fascinating. You can go to AssangeDefense.org, and they have, I think it's in, I'm not sure which section it's in, but you'll find all of the extradition hearing, like all of the testimony from those days. And it's really, it just blows the whole US case out of the water. So
it's wild. Did you have a good time when his dad and brother were here? Did you have fun meeting them?
Yeah, we had met John and Gabriel Shipton before. They had come out for a home run for Julian tour a couple summers ago. Okay. And so we had the pleasure of meeting them then, which what absolute amazing human beings. Obviously the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That's those guys, and his wife, Stella Assange. I mean, and his mom as well was also active in the beginning, and she has some health things or whatnot, but still they're just so eloquently spoken, fighting constantly, traveling constantly, just doing absolutely everything they can to get him out of there. Because that's the thing too, is that like, for us, sure, this is a free speech and free press issue. It's important to everybody, but we're talking about a human being. A gentle, intellectual human being, I mean, who's done really amazing things. That's the thing too, is even in the embassy, he kept publishing,
Right.
So, I mean,
So even though he's already like knows he's in trouble, he's like, oh, I can't stop now.
yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, quite frankly, none of this, in my opinion, and I know it's hard to say, but I just don't, the whole COVID thing, everything with that's happened through that, a lot of that if you had an organization like WikiLeaks was the only, there are a lot of wonderful independent news organizations. So I'm not saying that, but they were one that had the reach. They had the reach and the reputation and the integrity, and that pretty much got just wiped out, obviously, because of what's happening with Assange. So.
Yeah, just why it's been wild to see it all like up close and personal. Even just getting on Twitter during the COVID to see all the censorship, and then, but there are, yeah, like you said, there are people out there. You just have to find them. It's so much harder, and then they've demonized anybody who goes against anything. So, I really liked when I met Bill. The first he said he liked my cowboy boots, which that made him super cool, and then he said he had met the New Hampshire libertarians, and he was like, they just had their guns on. They all had their guns out because everyone open carries there. And he was just like, wow, like such a cool concept, I also liked I guess maybe could you describe the documentary maybe a little bit?
Yeah, so Ithaca is a film that Julian Assange's brother actually, I think he's the director for that. I'm not sure who the producer is, but it's a film of the fight to free Assange, mainly what John Shipton and then also Stella have been, going through just through this fight. So it just kind of follows 1 year up until that first extradition hearing, where they actually did deny the extradition because our prison system here is so terrible. They accepted all of the free press arguments and things like that, but still. So that's the film. It's an intimate portrayal of the family's fight to free him, and I think it's really well done. I think it shows. Just also the integrity of the people around him and just how hard that situation is. Because the other thing too is so people forget that while he was in the embassy, he was trying to get the UN to come and, speak with him, the UN rapporteur on torture, and that just kept being pushed off. And that's somebody that's worth listening to, Niels Meltzer. So in his story, basically, he pushed it off because he believed the propaganda about the whole Sweden situation and whatnot. So finally, he looked into it again a little bit and agreed to meet with Assange. Well, Assange was taken out of the embassy and put into Belmarsh. So that meeting with the UN rapporteur on torture happened shortly after Assange was in Belmarsh. And 2 separate UN people declared him a psychological torture victim at that time. So that was 4 years ago. And psychological torture is actually deemed to be even worse than physical torture. It's just so awful for a person. So here you have a psychological torture victim, an innocent person in Belmarsh prison, which is like our Guantanamo Bay. It's like the worst prisoners go there, and largely in solitary. So
yeah, you could hear it was so sad hearing the phone calls on the documentary. You just can hear it in his voice, just like, ugh, just so sad.
Well, so sad. And he has his own, he's a human like all of us. We all have our own issues and things and battles that we fight with, right? And then you just fight through that. That's the lie, is that the people who are doing things are, running for office like you are, that it's easy. It's not. It's it sucks, doing the right thing usually doesn't feel heroic. It's scary and, all of these other things.
Get a target on your back.
Right. So it's funny when John Shipton was here even, and also leading a group, your own faults come out where you're like, oh, I got to get better at this, or I got to do, these different things. And I told him, I was like, I don't know how, your son did it before he got in trouble, just even though WikiLeaks was a huge thing. So it's just a really amazing individual who, I have to say, when I got into it, I wasn't sure about a lot of different things. I didn't really believe the Swedish stuff, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know what kind of a guy Assange was, if he was this, he's painted so terribly in the media. I just didn't care because it was my free press, and then, but going through this, you get to learn that, like, oh my gosh, this is a really good person. This is a good person that this has been done to. And it's sad. So we'll keep going.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we all like, even with everything against us for whatever cause we're all going for. It's like, well, what else can you do? But you keep going forward, because they're just always going to be trying to intimidate. They're always going to be trying to stop people. So it's like, little by little, you just got to keep going forward. That was something I was gonna say that I liked that his dad said, because whoever was interviewing in the documentary was like, brought up autism or something, and his dad's like, no, he is who he is. I'm not gonna label it. Like, he said something along those lines. I'm like, that's what I've always been. It's like, we don't need to like always label people things like that, because they are who they are. Like, I just loved his dad's attitude. He was just such a cool dude.
Yeah, John Shipton is an amazing human being, like flat out one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. Like, yeah. It's just great. I mean, even hearing the way he speaks about our own First Amendment, and he just calls it this like pot of gold. Like, you guys just have this thing that's so important, and people are just, it's about to disappear.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, being from another country is just like, this is really important. Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you something else.
Well, we have to, if anybody's, we're going to have some things coming up here. Our group is working to, I'm down in Colorado Springs now, but we have our group up in Denver. So if anybody wants to follow us, on our Twitter, which is at DNVFreeJA, we'll have some things coming up. There's always different actions to do. You can never call the Department of Justice too many times and let them know exactly what you think about what they're doing. Same thing with any one of your reps. And that's the thing, is like, it's like through all of this, you do start to gain that confidence where it's like, why don't I have these people on speed dial? Why aren't there contacts in my phone? They should be. We should be able to call and voice our opinion constantly. I mean, they're supposed to be representing us. So we always post actions and stuff, but soon, and we'll have information up. We're putting some feelers around, but we want to do a poetry and a song contest for Assange to help. We're just always trying to find different ways to raise awareness. And I think artists have always been a huge part of any, movement. They really make the change. And I think that's one positive thing, is I think you're seeing a lot of, incredible musicians come out with great music about what's going on, and different artists. And so we'll try to do something like that in Denver and post information on that too. So any artists or musicians out there, we'd love for you to participate.
That'd be awesome. I know the We Are Change people would be totally down with that. They're like the sweetest, like, hippie artist people ever. Like, when they had the Johnny Hurley, there was a rally after they decided they weren't charging the officer who shot Johnny Hurley. And so, like, they had this rally, and they were just all like, we forgive they were just like so forgiving and sweet, and, not burning down buildings because someone got killed by a cop, and like, just like the nicest people. So I bet they'd be down with that. I remember what I was going to ask. Do you know if anything came of, who was it that wrote the letter? Rashida Tlaib, is that who wrote something?
She did. And actually, there were quite a few other people who signed on to that. AOC was one of them. I don't think that, anything's come of that letter, but that was a huge step. And that I really actually credit Chip Gibbons' activism with that in DC. I think he was a big part of that. And Rashid, I appreciate her speaking out about that. I mean, anybody, it's crazy that you don't have, especially some of these people that claim to be about free press, free speech, saying one thing, or, barely saying anything, it's weird.
Yeah, it is weird, because I know AOC said so, it was all like happy somebody else got silenced and stuff. So it's like, you guys have to be, but like, if they are going to do something, you've got to jump on it. Like, really the only thing we have right now is like every little coalition, like every little, we have to jump on it because you can't make any forward motion if you're constantly looking for purity and whatnot. Like there's just no way to go forward with that ever.
I agree. And we should all have a lot of empathy for one another too. And even with our own thoughts, I mean, that's one thing that I've really started to question is, I mean, once you start digging, you're like, holy cow, I've been lied to about everything. But, that's something that I wish we'd all remember, at least when you do even wake up a little bit too. Cause it's like, how do you even know that you're really angry at this person when you've been lied to? You don't have any of the actual information.
Right.
So it's like all of this stuff, people are fighting each other. They're not even, if they knew the actual, what, was actually being done, that's what they want to avoid. They want to keep the faces turned this way instead of towards the problem. But I think more and more people like are waking up and are, supporting. Like, I love that you're running for Arvada City Council. I think that's great. I'm sure that's been
I didn't want to, but yeah, but it is nice. And the support from like all sorts of different kinds of people and the hate from all sorts of different kinds of people. It's like, okay, then I guess we need more like people who are just outside of the system to some extent to try. Will it work? I don't know, but I'm like, I have to try. Gotta try.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It was never supposed to be such a giant, octopus entity that a regular person couldn't take 4 years and then go serve office and then come back. I mean, that's like what it's turned into is crazy.
It's crazy. That's why I'm like, we need to turn if I can turn the culture a little bit where it's like some complete outsider getting in, and then maybe I can be like, okay, now we need someone else to do it now, almost like not jury duty, but something like that. Yeah, because the guy I'm running against has been in 12 years already and he wants to keep going. And I'm like, I'm already exhausted and I've only been campaigning for it's very convoluted what they do. And the more I've been learning and meeting people, it's just like, wow, it really is. Even at the local level, it is such a beast. It is such a beast to even just like nick away at it a little bit. So gotta try a little
yeah
bit.
It's like, it's not a conspiracy, it's a corporation. Like, it's just giant corporation.
It's so true.
But I think that's good, that you have that attitude, because that's the attitude that anybody should have when they have power, which is that they don't want it.
I'm like, I'm just gonna be like the dumb one there when I get in. I'm gonna make everyone explain everything to me very slowly and like I just want to inspire the people. They're like, no one wants to be involved in local, like their eyes glass over whenever you talk about it. But bring up Trump or a federal thing, anyone can talk forever. So it's like, if we can this is where it matters the most. And this is where, like in Colorado, especially, things kind of slowly got taken over by more activists, more not like people who have people's best interests at heart, and it was a slow thing. And that's, everyone's all putting me down to well, you're never going to change anything. I'm like, well, it was slow. You got to start somewhere. It's like that. What is that saying? Like, don't let perfection keep you from start. I don't even know what this, but like, you have to start somewhere. So just got to keep going. Whatever happens, it's going to be all crazy here, but it's going to be fun. I'm just going to spread the message. So.
Well, and it's just that, to your point, I mean, whether you're elected or not, like that's a huge thing, even running for it. And maybe that gives somebody else some courage to do it too. And I think that anybody's life will change significantly when they get off the sidelines and try to do something themselves. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And I try to tell people, I'm like, even if whatever happened to me probably won't happen to you. So you're good. Like, it's nothing as terrible as what happened to you. If there's somebody in like a city wanting to start kind of something like you did, how would they go about it, would you say?
So one, I would say, contact me. We've got, there's Assange Defense, which would get you in contact with them probably too. That's sort of a, national group that's set up, and they'll post our events. They'll do things like they helped out with the Roger Waters tour, got groups that are together for that. But really we're going to start, it's not up quite yet, but it will be soon, an activist website, for Assange, where it's some other, Halo Benson, she's out of Tulsa, and then Sarcasm Stardust, Misty Winston, you know, I work with her a lot too. She's amazing person to work with. She's awesome for Assange. But for that purpose, like, here are flyers, here's how you do it. But I mean, honestly, it's like, make a sign, put a meetup, grab some friends, do that, like print out a flyer. I can get you PDFs, do anything like that. It's there's so many different things you can do. There's a guy in the UK who started a Yellow Ribbons for Assange campaign. And so that's a neat thing too. You can just have a ribbon that says Free Assange and tie that up somewhere. You know, the thing, like, whatever you're comfortable with, any little type of thing is a good thing. But if you want to start your own group, I mean, contact me. I'll help you out and talk to you, because it does help to have people to bounce things off of. But there's nothing, it's very grassroots. So it's, you know, we would advise a good way to start is to try to get some other groups that might support it as well, to maybe join you for a rally or something like that. Or there's different films that you can screen at a local coffee shop, just whatever. So I would say to just contact me, send me a direct message on Twitter, or our email is Denver Action, the number 2 free JA @ProtonMail. And just shoot me an email and I'll get you started. We'll introduce you to some activists from other cities. You know, there might even be somebody close to you already. So there are quite a few groups out there already that you can be involved with too. And the other thing too is it's like, this is free speech. So if you don't, I mean, even this is the thing, even if you don't like me, you don't like our group, please start a competing group in Denver to free Assange. I'm all for it, you know.
So it's just like getting people to show up is the hardest part.
It's hard. Well, and just getting the word out there too, you know. I mean, I have a pretty intense job. So I work like, 40, 50 hours a week. And so it's time. So we always need more people to help with just any little thing you can do. You know, many hands make little work. And that's very true. I mean, flyering is a huge thing. Just go flyer. Just like, so people know about it, you know?
Yeah, because it really does take so many people. I say this about the LP too. Like, okay, you need this many volunteers just to keep the organization legit and running, right? And then you need another layer of, you just need all these people to even do anything. But like, we're building, we're able to go to the Capitol a lot this year and speak against things. And so, yeah, and your rallies, and it is a building thing, but every little bit someone can help. I'm always like, people are like, I need to get more involved, or when I get a job, I'll donate. I'm like, if you could just do like 5 minutes of something, that'd be helpful. Like, just 5 minutes is great, you know? Really
it is, because that's a big lie that people believe. They think that they don't matter and that what they do doesn't matter. And, maybe, but that's not true. I mean, look at even what Assange did with WikiLeaks. What one person does really does matter. So I think, and we're not all Assange, but I still think that, everybody can, everybody's voice is important. I do believe that.
That's true. Hax, did you have any questions?
Yeah, okay. I want to backtrack a little bit and give people some context for why the Free Assange movement is a big deal. Explain who joined. Well, people we know this, and people who watch the show, they all know all this info. But for anyone who may watch this later who doesn't know, who is Julian Assange and what did he do that caused this lynch mob to go after him?
So, good question. So Julian Assange is the editor and publisher of WikiLeaks. So he founded that organization. So WikiLeaks, they're known for, they do the massive publications. So they do full publications, source documents, the kind of things like that their whistleblowers bring to them. And then they give that to the public. So instead of us getting, an article that says, experts say, or, that kind of reporting, it's actually like, no, here it is. You're smart enough, figure it out. So through these things, people have been able to litigate cases, and WikiLeaks is the only organization that has 100% record of publishing truthful information. They have never, ever had to retract anything. So, which is a huge deal. They're unmatched in that way. That's almost impossible to get. So specifically, what he is being indicted for are the Iraq and Afghanistan war log releases. So the all of the Manning leaks. That's what this indictment is for. And it's 17 counts under the Espionage Act, and then 1 count under the Computer Abuse and Fraud Act. And that was what I was referencing earlier with the password and different things like that. And that one charge there is what they're using to try to paint him as something other than a journalist. So, but the rest of those counts under the Espionage Act, and that's the other thing is all every major human rights and free press org has spoken out about this. They might not be, blasting it on a loud hailer, but they've all said that this is, awful for free press. So those 17 counts under the Espionage Act, what those do is they criminalize the basic practices of investigative journalism. So it will make it then a crime to basically report on the government, national security interest violation, basically to ever report on war or anything like that, which is that's why we have a free press, is for these exact instances, where our government is abusing our soldiers overseas. These are our men and women that we're responsible for. People who haven't been terrorized or put through the military are responsible for protecting our own soldiers, and so but so anyway, that's specifically what this indictment is about against Assange. It has nothing to do with the DNC leaks. He's not charged for any of that. He's not charged for, there's speculation that really a big reason they went after him is because of the Vault 7 leaks. And those were ones that he did publish while he was in the embassy. But specifically the indictment is only for the Iraq, Afghanistan, all of those leaks around that. Which also hex some of that, just to give a little bit even more context is that they exposed, I think like 100,000 civilian deaths that were unaccounted for or something like that. So there was all kinds of obviously illegal torture, rendition, war crimes, the collateral murder video where we gunned down a journalist, 2 Reuters journalists. That was a big one. That's part of the release that he's indicted for. And then, all of the other, I named those publications because those are the ones who initially they all published together. That's another thing Assange did is he did not just take these leaks and say, oh, I'm going to, WikiLeaks is going to be the hero here. He went and, talked to other news organizations saying like, I need help. It's another thing. He's accused of not redacting names. They accuse him of harm and things like that because of the releases. Well, there's multiple testimony of him, Assange, being the one out of all of those major publications to stay up all night and redact names, do all of that. So he did all of that work. So it's basically everything he's accused of doing, he absolutely did not do. It was the opposite. So I don't know does that give a decent background?
Yeah, I think that's perfect actually. And how long has this witch hunt against him been going on for?
So that has been maybe even a little over 12 years because it pretty much those releases came out, and it was huge all over the world. And he is one of the most highly awarded journalists. He's received Australia's highest award, the Wakely Award for journalism for these specific releases that he's indicted for. Sorry, can you say that question one more time? Because I lost my train of thought. It's great.
Yeah, it was just how long has?
Oh, how long? Right. So pretty much right after that, the government was after him, and then that's the Swedish thing happened. So I would say about 13 years total, because there was a time where he was also in the UK, and he didn't want to go back to Sweden for that. Keep in mind that he went to the officers right after that happened, told his story. They dropped that. They actually never had charges against him. They just had an open case. They never even filed charges in that. They would just open and, just to put that out there. So it's probably was even more than 12 years because 12 years is how long he's been confined. So I would put it about 13 I think, when all of the Sweden stuff started happening. And that was one where he was in the UK and didn't want to go back to Sweden because Sweden immediately just extradites everybody to the US. So everybody knew that the whole Sweden thing was really about these leaks and what we're dealing with right now. And that's been proven true.
Crazy. He never got in trouble with the Australian government, did he? Or did they ever go after him for anything?
No, they never went after him for anything. They've just sorely abandoned him, their citizen. It's even the prime minister now, Anthony Albanese, before he was elected, he ran on he was all about free Assange, and they have, I'm not going to discredit that. They have spoken out that they want him released. At least that's something. But it should be a lot more. I think just now they had somebody from the government go and visit Assange. So that's been 4 years.
Yeah. And that was in the documentary. That was the crazy part I was going to say, not to like give it away to people, but just like when they were trying to get Trump to pardon him, just like what it took to go through just to try. And then all of a sudden they're feeling their life's in danger, even just for asking, like it's just, everything is it's so messed up. And I guess everyone just thinks there's nothing you can do because it is so big, because it feels so big. It feels like we have no way to fight against them. And they do things like that. And you're just like, oh my gosh.
Well, it is kind of scary. I get that. But even for me, I'm just like, excuse my language, but just fuck that. I'm not living in that world. I'm not going to live that way.
No.
And my friend that we, a close friend was with me as from the beginning. And he and I were just like, gosh, if it ever becomes, illegal what we're doing, then what are we even talking about anyway? Because we're doing absolutely nothing wrong. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy what's been demonized. And that is why a lot of people fight each other, and so, because it is so big and it feels so big. But like when you really do have that attitude of like, fuck them, what else can you, like, you have to speak the truth. You have to. There's no way around it. There is, I guess, if you're protected by like corporate journalist stuff, but otherwise, everyone else, like, no protection.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's in part of my opinion too, is that it's not just the releases, it's not just what was exposed, it's not just the war crimes. What was exposed was their information apparatus and their propaganda apparatus, and what is necessary to keep all of the, people stupid, basically, which is just they're being lied to constantly. So that's what he exposed even more so, is that we don't have a free press.
And they worked hard to suppress everything he said. Even when it happened, I wasn't as active or anything. I wasn't paying attention really at all. Which I felt guilty for. But I just remember, like, they painted him to look so bad at first. Everyone did, and then you start slowly learning. Wait, what did he do? Oh, he just told the truth about what was okay. Like, it is such a strong machine. It's hard to even like comprehend how huge it is and how well practiced it is and how well connected it is.
And just how effective it is. I have people who I have all admiration for. These are brilliant, smart people that I know, but that have absolutely no clue about what's going on. That's insane to me. It's impressive how they're able to make people shut off with stuff like that. But even I brought up the UN rapporteur on torture, Niels Meltzer. And he has a book out now called The Trial of Julian Assange. And I would recommend that everybody get that book and read it. But his story is fascinating. So he is who, declared him a psychological torture victim. And he's been, he's been huge in this movement to free him. But he wouldn't even see Assange at first because he just believed all of that out of the news. You had the judge who sentenced him to, put him in Belmarsh. It says a judge called him a narcissist. Like, it's that kind of just kangaroo court where it's like, what are we doing here? Are you seeing? It's crazy. So, yeah.
It is nuts.
That's level of irony, a judge calling someone like Assange a narcissist.
Yeah.
That's a new level of irony right there.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is this guy, he spoke Swedish, so he was able to just completely blow that whole case out of the water, that it was just absolute, there was nothing there. And then he sent letters that have just gone completely unanswered to the US government, Ecuador, Sweden, and I think those three, just because their actions basically over those 8 years that he was in the embassy, all of the constant propaganda against him and everything like that. I mean, that was psychological torture. That doesn't, people see it happening to somebody else, but that's intense. I mean, I'm sure, Jessica, I mean, you've had to deal with that too. It's not, I feel like you do an amazing job with it, but it's not like it's not.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Just that little bit of it. And it does make you start questioning, oh my gosh, should I just not do anything? Should I just let them intimidate me? Yeah, it fucks with you.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and especially we have, our Twitter is under Denver Free Assange, so we've dealt with some things, but some of the people that, speak out on their own personal stuff, like my friend Misty, I mean, these guys get so attacked. It's really crazy. And now we pretty much know that a lot of those are just the CIA or whoever these bots are. Wait a minute, am I even mad at a real person?
Right. God, it's crazy. Yeah. And then she had to deal with the poor guy getting naked at her free assignment and trying to light himself on fire with sterno gel.
Well, and if you think too, compare how that guy was treated, right? An actual, had some problems, probably, whatever, I mean, there's question as to whether he was, just a regular citizen or maybe somebody that was, put there, who knows? But he was treated so kindly and taken away, and they try to help him out. Compare that to how Medea Benjamin was treated when she went up on stage for World Press Freedom Day with Anthony Blinken, and said something, and was dragged, a tiny woman dragged off the, stage, rough handled by security and everything. You see that contrast of what the people and how the people in power are, and then how regular people are. And it's we should be running things.
Yeah, that's why they show their hand more often than not, but it's just that people need to realize it. They just need to wake up and realize it.
Well, and the thing about it is they will everybody realizes it eventually. It's just whether people are gonna realize it when we still have time to do something about it.
Yeah. Scary thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's already gotten to a point. I mean, people can go to the grocery store and they should know that they're being lied to, just from the prices of different things.
Yeah. All right. Well, kind of coming up on almost an hour. Is there anything else you want to add? Want to throw out there?
Just please, we're most active on social media. We'll always have, if we're having an event coming up or anything, it'll be pinned on our page. That's at DNB Free JA. And then anybody, who's interested in getting involved more, please contact me at we have an email address, Denver Action, the number 2, freeja@protonmail.com. And then, that's about it. Just please, if you know what's going on, speak out. Now's the time to do it, and come and, come to one of our events and meet us. And, there's a lot of people forming different communities. And so I guess it's just, you're not alone, and we welcome everyone. So, and thank you so much, both of you guys, for having us on. And thank you for speaking at our rally. You are welcome to speak at any of our rallies. And Hex too, you could come and speak too. We always meet on speakers.
Book a flight to Denver. Next time.
Yeah, you're coming out this summer, maybe, right, Hex?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll put your email and the links and stuff in the description too, so that people can keep contacting. And if anyone has any kind of activist group of any sort, definitely meet up with other groups like yours, because the more coalitions, the better, man. People are so against that right now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the most important thing right now. I don't care if I disagree on some things. Even Misty had me on her show. We were laughing because we probably disagree on a lot of stuff, but like the whole show, we agree, you know, everything we were talking about, we agree on, and that the stuff we agree on is what's really important. So
it's so true. And that's the thing is like some of these people, I don't agree with certain politics either, but even some of the people I've worked with through the Assange stuff, I'm like, these are people who I'd be like, okay, let's try your idea because they're at least truthful, honest people.
right.
You know, pretty much any ideology would probably be not so bad if we had truthful, honest people.
And if we could just like be like, maybe the thing that wants to force things on people is like the biggest worry, rather if it's forcing from the right or left or whatever, like maybe we could just focus on that together and then we won't have to worry so much. But it's really hard to get people to realize that.
Yeah, well, and I'll end with this, just that, you know, it's a Assange quote, censorship is for losers. It's so true.
That is true. That's good. Hex, you want to give your plugs?
All right. The regulars, you know what's up, but for anyone new, Hexcelerate everywhere: YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram, Bandcamp, Twitter, all of that. Go support Jessica Fensky for her Arvada City Council run, and support Kendra in her Free Assange movement. If not her, like she said, if you're not in Colorado, start one in Wyoming or wherever you are, and you know, do something. Like even if it's like having someone like Kendra or someone else on your podcast, like we just did. Every little bit really does help. Like I know tackling the monolith that is the establishment can seem like a losing battle, but you got to try. Every little thing does help.
Yes. That was beautiful, Hex. That was really beautiful. All right, everyone knows my stuff. Housekeeping. Next week we're doing one more golden showers with the ROTC boys, and then we'll take a break in June in the summer just because I'm going to be door knocking and stuff all weekends, and I'm just going to be too tired to schedule stuff. But we'll have a couple golden showers, and Hex has his streams now, and Sibling Rivalry. Check them out. Put a fork in it with the Forkies, and yeah, thanks again, Kendra, for coming on. That was really good.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take us out, Paul.
Bye.